What if the man who just cashed a $50 million check from Google for an app that yanked 1 million Americans out of debt spirals started out shivering under Detroit's Ambassador Bridge? His only blanket, the frozen pages of a library book scavenged from a dumpster? Jake Harlan, 32 and sharp-suited in his San Francisco loft overlooking the Golden Gate's hazy glow, signed the deal on the 16th of September 2025. His hands steady as the stylus danced across the tablet, sealing a legacy born from the city's rusting underbelly. But 15 years earlier, at 17, he'd been a ghost in the machine of the American dream, backpack slung over one shoulder like a noose, the weight of his mother's faded photo pressing against his chest, the one she'd slipped him on her deathbed, her voice a rasp from chemo. "Pull yourself up, kid. No matter how deep the mud." Cancer had claimed her 2 winters before, in the brutal chill of 2006, leaving Jake with $200 in student loans and an eviction notice slapping against the door of their crumbling Corktown walk-up. Rent at $650 a month. That might as well have been a king's ransom on his $7.25 an hour Kroger shelves. He'd believed the hustle gospel preached in every Motown diner and factory break room. Clock endless shifts, save every crumpled bill, and the world spits out a white picket fence, a steady gig, maybe even a food truck slinging conies under the big lights of Comerica Park. But that night under the bridge, the icy wind off the Detroit River slicing through his threadbare Lions jacket, sirens wailing like mocking laughter from the factory's skeletal frames. Jake clutched that photo tighter, stomach twisting from the day's single McDouble bought with a $2 tip from washing windshields in the Eastern Market lot. No family left. Dad had vanished to Toledo, chasing a waitress's skirt when Jake was 8, so the stakes loomed like the bridge's shadow. Fail here, and he'd dishonor her memory, become another statistic in the D's endless scroll of foreclosures and forgotten sons, his bones claimed by the river before he could prove the myth true or false. As the first snowflakes stung his cheeks, Jake whispered to the dark, "Mom, I got this." But deep down, the doubt gnawed. What if the streets pulled him under before dawn's gray light even broke? Jake's story didn't start in the cold snap of that bridge night. It simmered in the humid summers of a Corktown childhood, where the air hummed with the distant rumble of Ford's River Rouge plant. His mom's double shifts there, etching lines into her face deeper than the potholes on Michigan Avenue. Born in 1990 to a single mom who'd fled Appalachia with dreams of assembly line stability, Jake grew up in that one-bedroom walk-up. Walls thin as the paychecks that fluttered through the mail slot, $1,200 a month after taxes, barely stretched across groceries from the Aldi on Verner Highway, and the occasional splurge on Faygo Pop for movie nights, watching Rocky on their flickering Zenith TV. She was his anchor, her calloused hands braiding his hair before school, her laugh cutting through the steam of boiling Vernors for hot dogs on Fridays. But the cracks showed early. Dad's abandonment left a hole no overtime could fill, and by middle school at Munger Elementary, Jake was the kid trading Pokemon cards for lunch money. His report cards, a battlefield of C's in math and glowing, as in shop class, where he dreamed of wrenching his own engine someday. Cass Tech High was supposed to be the ladder up Detroit's magnet for the grinders, with its echoing halls and banners touting alumni like Madonna. But at 16, the 2007 layoffs hit the plant like a sledgehammer. Mom's hours slashed from 40 to 20 a week, her cough turning wet and ominous by fall. Jake dropped out that spring, trading algebra for the fluorescent buzz of Kroger's stockroom, hauling 50-pound crates of canned beans for $7.25 an hour, minimum wage in Michigan then, his uniform chafing against dreams of that food. Truck parked curbside, flipping Lafayette Coney Islands to Tigers fans flush with $5 wins. He'd stash singles in a Folgers can under his bed, $300 by summer's end, enough for a used deep fryer on Craigslist. But the belief burned bright, hustle harder, and the dream delivered. Just like the billboards promised along the Lodge Freeway, Mom's illness accelerated the unraveling. By 2008, the recession's jaws clamped down, banks foreclosing on half the block, her medical bills piling like unpaid utility notices, $5,000 in debt, before Medicaid kicked in late. She passed in a sterile bed at Henry Ford Hospital on a Tuesday in January 2008. Jake at her side, her last grip on his hand squeezing out. "Pull yourself up. Kid, don't let it win." The funeral was a potluck at the VFW Hall on Trumbull. $200 scraped from pawning his Xbox for $50, and odd jobs mowing lawns in Mexican Town for $10 a pop. Eviction followed 2 weeks later. The landlord's notice taped to the door like a scarlet letter, and Jake packed what fit in a duffel. Her photo, a change of socks, the Folgers can now light as hope. First night on Gratiot Avenue's shelter, the 8 p.m. curfew bell clanging like a prison gate, cots sagging under the weight of strangers' snores, lice itching under his collar. He vowed to grind through, washing cars in the shadow of the Renaissance Center, for tips that bought a $1.50 bus pass to nowhere. But as the shelter's fluorescent hum droned into the wee hours, Jake staring at the ceiling cracks mapping his future, the myth felt flimsier than the thin blanket rationed out. What if pulling up meant clawing through concrete, and the only hand extended was his own? The winter of 2009 descended like a verdict, turning Detroit's streets into a gauntlet of ice-slick betrayal. Jake at 18 navigating it with the wariness of a stray, his world shrinking to the radius of a 5-mile walk from the Mariners Church Warming Center on Jefferson Avenue, where the free soup, watery beef, barley laced with regret, barely dulled the growl in his gut. He'd clawed a gig flipping burgers at a Checkers off 8 Mile Road, $8.50 an hour for 40-hour weeks that started at 5 a.m., grease splattering his apron as he dreamed of flipping profits instead. But the recession's aftershocks hit hard. Shifts gutted to 20 hours by February. Tips evaporating as families in beat-up Chargers skipped the $4.99 value meals for ramen at home. Rent? A joke. He couch-surfed a buddy's basement in Ferndale. $150 a month bartered in favors, like unclogging drains at midnight or shoveling snow from driveways at dawn. The cold seeping through gloves, patched with duct tape from the dollar store. Desperation birthed hustles. Bootleg DVDs peddled outside Comerica Park on Tigers. Opening day in April 2009. Ripped copies of Slumdog Millionaire hawked for $5 a pop to sunburned fans, netting $40 after haggling with a rowdy crew in Tigers blue. But 2 weeks later, cops in an unmarked cruiser scooped his stack of 20 discs, slapping a $250 fine for peddling without a permit, paid in $50 installments that drained the Folgers can to $47 by June. Friends faded like summer light. The Castech crew who'd passed blunts behind the bleachers now averted eyes at Woodward Avenue tailgates, one muttering, "Can't crash here. Man mom's rules," as he shoved a half-eaten Big Mac Jake's way, the rejection stinging worse than the pneumonia that bloomed in his chest from too many nights under the bridge's draft. Treated with antibiotics from a free clinic on Grand River that left him $20 lighter in copays. Internal storms raged too, self-doubt twisting like the knots in his sleeping bag. Rage bubbling when a Huntington Bank loan officer, in Midtown's polished branch, stamped "denied" on his food truck pitch in July, citing "no collateral, zero credit score, high-risk profile." The suit's pitying glance echoing the system's sneer at kids from the wrong zip. Jake stormed out into the sleet, bus fare, home wait, no home nicking another $3 from the can, and that night behind a Tim Hortons on Mack Avenue, he slammed his fist into a brick wall, knuckles splitting open in a spray of blood and fury, whispering to the indifferent stars, "Mom, what the hell am I doing wrong?" The aunt in Lansing wired $20 once. Her text crisp, "Don't call again, got my own fires," sealing the isolation with a digital ghost. 5 job interviews vanished into radio silence. 3 couch gigs soured into midnight evictions, with landlords' fists pounding doors, each blow chipping the hustle myth to splinters. Was this the dream's fine print? A lifetime of scraping until the river rose to meet him? But in the dim glow of a library computer at the Detroit Public Main on Woodward Avenue, frost etching the windows like accusations, Jake's fingers trembled over a key that might unlock more than just survival. It was the 15th of March 2010, the ides of a thawing spring, that promised nothing but slush underfoot, when Jake claimed the public library's corner terminal as his foxhole. The free Wi-Fi, a lifeline amid the hush of turning pages and muffled coughs from the stacks. He'd been doom-scrolling Craigslist for gigs, dog walking $10 an hour in Palmer Park, plasma donations netting $25 twice weekly at the BioLife Center on Telegraph Road, when a pop-up ad pierced the fog. Learn to code for free. Change your life. His heart stuttered like a faulty engine. Coding? The dropout who'd botched high school basic on an Apple IIe, thinking algorithms were diner lingo for extra fries? But he clicked, the screen blooming with free CodeCamp's promise, and there it was, a tutorial for a simple HTML hello world script, lines unfolding like a roadmap out of the maze. Fingers hovering, pulse thundering as if he'd just dodged a patrol car on I-75, Jake typed the code, hit enter, and watched the words materialize, green on black. A digital heartbeat echoing his own. For the first time since Mom's hospital vigil. Possibility crackled through him. Not panic static. This couldn't be foreclosed, fined, or ghosted. It was intangible armor, built line by line. He ditched the DVD scam that afternoon, trading chain link fences for libraries' oak tables, vowing 4 hours a day, every day, rain or the relentless gray of Motown drizzle. The pivot sliced deep, no more blind alleys of burgers and bootlegs, but a forge where pain could code into power, her photo propped on the keyboard like a sentinel. Yet the first weeks were crucifixion. The borrowed Chromebook from the shelter's tech outreach overheated after 30 minutes, fan whirring like judgment, fingers cramping on the wonky keys as JavaScript loops knotted his brain worse than Detroit's Christmas lights tangled in wind. He'd slam the table after the 10th crash of a practice site, muttering, "Stupid." Harlan stick to slinging hash, hunger sharpening the edge, as he skipped lunches to nurse $200 monthly food stamps through the month, chugging tepid library water to mimic fullness. The two friends who'd stuck ribbed him over burner phones. Coding? That's for Ivy nerds with daddy's Amex. Bro, not us, D-boys. But Jake doubled down, tracking in a spiral notebook from the dollar store. Day 1, 0 lines committed to muscle. Day 30, a basic web page that loaded without imploding. Its clunky form a trophy heavier than any Coney win. Mini victories stoked the fire, but shadows lurked. A first freelance gig on Upwork, tweaking a Hamtramck bakery site for $50, botched when the payment gateway glitched under his novice fingers. Earning a 1-star review that scorched his profile. Amateur hour wasted my time. Tears blurred the pixels that night, doubt a vice on his throat. The vow teetering as he eyed the river from his underpass roost. Would this code bridge hold, or crumble under the weight of one more no? By fall 2011, Jake's routine had forged into rebar. Up at 5 a.m., in the River Rouge plant's break room, debugging on a smuggled Chromebook before his $11 an hour shifts, stacking transmission parts till his back arched like a bowstring, then refining code till midnight in the shelter's lounge. The hum of fluorescent tubes, his lullaby. He'd pawned Mom's tarnished locket and earrings for $120 at a shop on Gratiot, upgrading to a $99 refurbished Dell from a Hamtramck hole in the wall. Its screen a portal to worlds beyond the assembly line's clang. Habits layered like defenses. Black coffee from the plant's urn for laser focus. 10,000 steps daily pacing the aisles while mentally mapping if-then flows. And weekly check-ins with Ray, the grizzled ex-GM engineer he'd bonded with over lukewarm vending machine coffee at the library. Ray, who'd lost his Ypsilanti bungalow to the recession, but clawed back as a freelance dev. His voice gravel over prepaid flips. Fail fast, kid. Then fix it faster. Code don't care about your zip code. Jake absorbed it, landing 2 $100 WordPress tweaks for Royal Oak mom and pops by December. The cash $400 a month total funneled into Udemy courses, snagged for $10 during Black Friday sales, his bank balance a fragile $150 buffer against the void. The path zigzagged viciously. A server crash mid-project vaporized a $300 client gig in February 2012. 2 weeks of ramen-fueled all-nighters lost to ether, while Pneumonia's sequel floored him for 10 days in March. $450 in ER bills, stacking like accusations. He pawned the Schwinn bike for meds, walking 5 miles each way to shifts. Blisters weeping on heels cracked from winter's toll. "Why me, Ray?" He'd croak into the phone, voice raw as sandpaper. "Because the deck's stacked, Harlan, but you deal your own hand." Ray fired back, and Jake did, iterating his budget tracker app Pennywise thrice over spring, shaving load times from 10 agonizing seconds to a slick 2. Swipe gestures born from his flip phone's muscle memory. Tested on 50 sheltermates over shared cots. Feedback: brutal. Too glitchy for my Nokia. Crashes when I logged that overdraft, shame. But he rebuilt. Quitting the warehouse by May for $15 an hour tutor gigs at Wayne County Community College. Upgrading to a $600 studio in Greektown, where the roar of casino crowds drowned doubt. Yet the acid test awaited. A Detroit startup mixer at Techtown in Midtown, June 2012, where Jake demoed Pennywise on a borrowed projector, budget sinks, impulse buy flags, badges for skipping that $6 latte. The room suits leaning in, then erupting in chuckles from a venture shark. Cute toy, street kid, but who pays for penny pinching in this dump? Jake slunk to his studio, the apps folder glaring from the desktop like a dare, delete key hovering as rage and regret warred in his chest. One more rebuild, or torch it all and crawl back to the bridge. The breakthrough ruptured in July 2012, like a long festering blister finally lanced. Jake holing up in that Greektown shoebox for 12-hour coding sieges fueled by corner store Red Bull and Ray's relentless texts. Metrics or myths? Kid show him the numbers. He gutted Pennywise, weaving in free bank APIs from public docs and rudimentary AI nudges via Coursera modules. That daily venti's bleeding you $150 a month. Dodge 3. Snag those Air Jordans guilt-free. Beta testing on 200 users from Reddit's R, divided by personal finance. Sign-ups exploding to 150 inches a week. Retention locking at 70% after frantic tweaks to iron out the kinks. Buzz hummed. A Detroit Free Press blog profiled him in August. From sidewalks to servers, the homeless hacker rewriting debt, downloads surging to 5,000 by September. Ad revenue trickling $2,000 monthly from affiliate links to credit tools, enough to lease a midtown co-working desk for $300 a month split with ghosts of ambition. He bootstrapped a pitch deck, 20 slides crammed with cold data, 300% month-over-month growth, churn under 15%, cold emailing 50 angel investors scraped from Crunchbase. 3 hooks landing. By October, the first meet in a Birmingham cafe on the 10th of November 2012, Jake's palms slick as he ran the demo, the retired auto exec's eyes widening at the swipe that flagged a user's $200 overdraft trap. You turned your hell into their Halo $100,000 seed. Wired by week's end. Elation hit like nitrous. He recruited a U of M design dropout for equity and a Wayne State part-timer for back-end muscle. Launching V2.0 on the 1st of March 2013. User base ballooning to 100,000 by July via partnerships with Credit Karma for seamless data pulls. Year 1 revenue blasting to $500,000 from $4.99. Premium subs that unlocked predictive savings forecasts. The team outgrew the co-work, renting a 1,000 square foot loft on Cass Avenue for $1,200 monthly split 4 ways. Whiteboard scrawled with velocity charts like war map. Storm still brewed a 2014 data breach scare. Some phishing hack dipping actives to 80,000. Jake, sinking $20,000 of his cut into forensic fixes and open sourcing non-core code for transparency's bomb. Trust rebounding with a 20% user bump by quarter's end. By 2015, Pennywise commanded 1 million souls, annual recurring revenue at $10 million. Jake's slice netting $2.5 million post-taxes, enough to buy a modest Ferndale bungalow as a nod to roots. But he measured richer, internal audits pegging $200 million in user-saved fees from dodged impulses and refinanced traps. Forbes tapped him for 30 under 30 in 2016. The Vancouver stage his in 18 for a TED thunderclap. From bridge to billions. code your comeback, standing ovations rolling like rouge wave. Yet as the metrics mounted, whispers from the rear view nagged. Had the climb sanded off the edges that made him fight, or honed them sharper for the falls ahead? In the September sun of 2025, Jake Harlan journals by the Lofts Bay window, the Pacific's endless roll, a mirror to the river that once threatened to swallow him whole. His entries no longer tallies of code commits, but ledgers of grace. 27 failed pitches. Before that first angel, yes, each "no" a brick in the foundation, raised gravelly mantra etched like scripture. Gratitude isn't performative for him, it's pulse, woven into weekly Zooms with shelter teens in Corktown, dishing unvarnished war stories over shared screens. I bombed 15 freelance bids before the first $100 wire hit. Track your scars, they scar your path to strength. No sermons, just the raw gospel of a kid who punched bricks till they bled, now channeling that fury into the Harlan Bridges Fund. 20% of his windfall, $10 million seeded, pouring $1 million annually into coding labs, from Ambassador underpasses to Delray centers. Zero tuition for 500 wide-eyed dreamers. Since 2020, 1,200, now code fluent and pitching their own apps. He's bloomed too, wed to Lena, the fierce social worker he locked eyes with at a fun gala in 22. Her laugh a bomb like moms over conies. Their son River, one and toddling, named for the flow that forged rather than drowned. His giggles echoing through the loft as Jake scoops him for Bayside walk. 5 miles daily along Crissy Field, not for the endorphin burn but the head-clearing salt. Jake unpacks the arc. Streets schooled him in unbreakable bounce, code in patient precision. Boardrooms in the quiet win of listening over leading. At a packed Motown Youth Center on West Grand Boulevard last month, he locked gazes with a fidgety 16-year-old in the back. Backpack slung like Jake's old duffel, and shared. I bought the lie that low starts lock low finishes, but every empire's rubble born. Rewrite the rules, one habit at a time. The room hung on his words. Breaths sink. Applause crashing like a tiger's walk-off. But Jake's eyes stayed on that kid's slow nod. The spark flickering. What path would he code? A fintech fix or something wilder? Untamed by the D's grind? As the echoes fade, Jake lingers in the quiet thunder of it all. If a bridge hugger from Corktown could hack from zero to zenith, the myth's not in the hustle alone, but in the pivot, the persistent dawn after the darkest code freeze. And so Jake Harlan stands at the edge of his earned vista, the golden gate, a golden thread tying rust to reinvention. Knowing the streets don't yield easy, but the future bends to those who bend first. Grit plus grace. Failure as firmware update. From that frozen night under the Ambassador to this sun-kissed close, his tale whispers to every reader nursing their own underpass doubt. The dream's not a handout, it's a hack. Line by stubborn line. So grab that notebook, fire up the free tutorial, log your first "Hello World" comment, day 1, below, if this is your pivot point, your bridge under construction. Who's with me in rewriting tomorrow? One earned step at a time.